This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter and welcome you to another sports catastrophe birthday boy. And their birthday boy for today, October 22nd, is a hockey goalie. It is a bias because I'm a big goalie guy. But this guy has an NHL modern day record that you never would have thought. But this guy played for many teams. He played for 8 teams. And all that. He is 56 years old. His name is Ron Tugnutt. And yes, that hockey card represents a hockey card I have of Ron Tugnutt. So anyway, Tugnutt was born in Scarborough and played in the famous Quebec International Pee Wee Hockey Tournament in 1980. He would play 3 years in the OHL with the Peterborough Petes and was actually a good goalie, rookie goalie. In the 4th round of the 1986 NHL draft, the Nordiques decided, hey, we need a goalie. So they took Tugnutt. Quebec at that time was decent. Now you'd be thinking, well, how many goalies were drafted ahead of him? Well, that's a good question. For goaltender. The first goaltender taken in the draft was Sean Simpson with Washington. Washington also took another goalie with, well, the 60th pick was Sean Simpson, and then the 61st pick was Jim Harnefak. So they took 2 goalies back to back. Ironically, the Sean Simpson pick by Washington was the pick that they picked up from Quebec in the Peter Anderson deal. Detroit took Tim Chevalier in the 4th round, 64th overall, which was pretty good for Detroit at the time. And I think that's it. Yeah, and Tugnutt was the 4th goalie taken in the draft. He was basically a backup bouncing from the AHL to the NHL. Quebec started to regress and all that. He played for the 1990 squad that used 6 goalies to try to stem a 12-win season. Yikes. Tugnutt would play 56 games for the 91 Nordiques, becoming the main goalie, and was a quality goalie, even though the Nordiques were just terrible. Very terrible. However, one game in March of 1991 would show how good he kind of was. The Boston Bruins at the Boston Garden would take on the Nordiques, and I did it on this day about this game. But anyhow, Tugnutt was in net, and out of 73 shots, guess how many he gave up? 3. So he had 70 saves, which is a modern record, while his second most. Pete Lopresti had 80. No, Sam Lopresti, sorry. Had 80 saves in one game. Or was it Pete Lopresti? No, it was Sam Lopresti. He had 80 saves in 1941, but that was a different era. Regardless, it was huge. Ray Borg set an unofficial NHL record with 19 shots on goal and was robbed in the final 5 seconds by Tugnutt in overtime. Game tied 3-3 when games ended in tie. The fans actually gave him a standing ovation. He was very consistent for the 92 season, and Stefan Fiset came out of freaking nowhere to be number 1 goalie. Tugnutt was demoted to the AHL. But the Nordiques found a training partner with Edmonton who needed a goalie for the stretch drive for Bill Ranford because Grant Fuhr was traded to the Leafs. So Tugnutt was traded to Edmonton for Martin Rushinsky. Of course, he would be famous in the Waugh trade. Regardless, Tugnutt actually played a couple years as Ranford's backup and then was left unprotected by the Oilers for the expansion draft. And he went to the Ducks, becoming part of the expansion Ducks alongside Guy Hebert. So he found a thing and all that. Anaheim decided to get Guy Hebert as their future starter. So they kept Hebert and dumped Tugnutt off. They needed a trading partner, and with Montreal needing a quality backup to Patrick Waugh, and with Andre Rasico and Les Kunter not doing the job to being the backup to Waugh. Well, being a backup to Patrick Waugh is huge up in Montreal. But anyway, Tugnutt was sent to Montreal for Stéphane Lebeau. No big deal. However, he only played 8 games in the 94 regular season for Montreal and posted an .860 save percentage. Anything under 900 is just terrible. So anyway, Tugnutt actually ended up starting game 3, if memory serves me right, of the first round series against the Bruins because Patrick Roy had to go through an appendectomy. He was definitely not cleared to play Game 3. Tugnutt did and got blown out of the water. Wall miraculously decided to play Game 4 with painkillers and all that. And he did it. Wall made that big 60 save effort in Game 5, helping Montreal comes also close to winning the series, but losing Game 6 and 7. Tugnutt didn't really play in 95 for the Habs, I think. Did he play for 95 for the Habs? Yeah, he played 7 games for the Habs in 95 and didn't do so well. So, anywho, he was taken out and replaced by Patrick Lebrac for the 95-96 season. So, Tugnutt was contemplating retirement. But Washington gave him a chance and signed him to a 1-year deal. And he would play in the AHL with them, helping them get to the Calder Cup finals, or basically the American Hockey League equivalent to the Stanley Cup. Ottawa needed a goalie because Ottawa in the first few seasons of their expansion franchise were not really that good. And Ottawa figured they could get Ron Tugnutt, and they did. So anyway, in a couple seasons, he was fighting Damian Rhodes to be the #1 goalie for the Senators. And Ron Tugnutt was huge, especially in 97. The final game of the regular season, the Senators were facing the Sabres, and Tugnutt stood on his head, picked up the shutout, and Ottawa clinched their first playoff spot in their modern history. Tugnutt had just lost his dad and pointed to the rafters to signify the win was for his father. Tugnutt did well. The Senators were expected to get their butts handed to them by the Sabres in the playoffs. Maybe win 1 or 2 games. But the Senators forced the Sabres to Game 7. And unfortunately, an unfortunate bounce caught Tugnutt off guard on Derek Plant's overtime winning goal in Game 7. So that was just not good. However, Tugnutt would fight on for the Senators and all that. In 99, after Damian Rhodes was sent to Atlanta... before Damian Rhodes was sent to Atlanta, Tugnutt had the best season of his career, one of the best ever. He had a .179 goals against average for the 99 Senators, which was huge. Second in save percentage. He had the most wins in his career and tied a career high in shutouts. So it looked like Ottawa was bouncing back beautifully after 97 and 98. And he got to play in the NHL All-Star game in 99 because of Cujo's injury. Unfortunately for Ottawa, they just had to run into the Buffalo Sabres. And Dominic Hasek was just, Dominic freaking Hasek. So the Senators shockingly lost that series. With Rhodes going to the expansion fractures, Tugnutt was given sole possession of the starting job. Unfortunately, his season wasn't so well. And Ottawa decided to trade Tugnutt to Pittsburgh to get Tom Barrasso, which was huge because Pittsburgh was like, they were giving up on Tom Barrasso, the guy who helped them win back-to-back Cups. Wow. Well, the good news for Penguin fans was that Barrasso did not help Ottawa out. They got taken out in the first round by the Toronto Maple Leafs. Tugnutt was the starting goalie for Pittsburgh and helped Pittsburgh get to the playoffs. And Tugnutt was in that famous game in 2000, in Game 4, with the Flyers and Penguins that went to quintuple overtime, or 5 overtimes, if you can't understand what quintuple means. So he made 70 saves, just like his famous game in 91. Unfortunately, though, the last shot he faced was the winning goal by Keith Primo in the 5th overtime. The much maligned centerman, as Steve Levy of ESPN said. Philly won 2-1, and Philly went on to win that playoff series. He was very sought after. Ottawa and Pittsburgh decided to try to get Tugnutt. However, the expansion Columbus Blue Jackets gave him a lucrative contract. Columbus needed a goalie for their expansion team, so for the second time, Tugnutt would face an expansion franchise. And he was the backbone. He put up 22 wins, which some people say is not good enough. However, that set a record for most wins by goalie on an expansion team. I think Marc-Andre Fleury broke that. But yeah, he was good for Columbus. Tugnutt would get injuries, and then Marc Denis would soon become the star goalie. So after Denis proved himself, Columbus traded Tugnutt to the Dallas Stars. Tugnutt was the backup to Marty Turco. Tugnutt would have to start 20 games in a row after Turco's injury. And he did okay. He was 15-10-5 with 4 shutouts, being Dallas's backup. And then he was sent back to the AHL for the 03-04 season. And there was huge in all of that. But after the 04 season, Tugnutt figured he was done and retired. He would become a color commentator for Hockey Night in Canada. He was a goaltending coach for the Oshawa Generals for a few years. He joined the Peterborough staff for a couple of years. And then he would coach his son's team, the Kempville 73s, a junior A team in the Ottawa Valley. Tugnutt has 2 sons. And the strange thing is, you know that big goals against average job, the 99 season for Tugnutt? It almost didn't happen. He was in a severe boating accident, and people thought he was going to miss out on training camp, but no, he didn't. Anyway, so he has a lot of records. Modern day record holder for saves in a regular season game, non-loss, with 70 saves against Bruins in that tie. Holds the Ducks record for most saves in a regular season game, still, with 46. I thought Shigeru broke that mark. Holds the Penguins record for highest save percentage in the playoffs, despite only playing a few years for them. And he's the only goalie to have the first ever wins for 2 expansion teams, Columbus and Anaheim. So anyway, in a career that saw him play for Quebec, Edmonton, Anaheim, Montreal, Ottawa, Pittsburgh, Columbus, and Dallas, he put up 186 wins in 537 games with 26 shutouts and a 305 goals against. Only 9-13 in the playoffs, but he was not really the star goalie. He wasn't the star goalie in 98 when the Senators shocked the Devils, which I'm shocked at. But yeah, in 2000 and in 97, he appeared in all his team's playoff games. Otherwise, he wasn't there. But whatever happened, happened. And Ron Tugnutt is a very underrated goalie. Anyway, I'm Jeff Dunn.